Microphone check, microphone check. We are live. Let me make sure we live. Hold on. Let me make sure that we live. Oh yeah, we live. We live. We're gonna let a few people get in here. I had a brother that's gonna break down. Had a good one of the subscribers took up the challenge and said, you know what? I'll break that thing down, man. I want to break it down. And he said he'll come on. He's agreed to come on and break down why he feels the name of the Lord is Yahuah or YHWH. His real name is Yahuah. We'll wait on him to come on, and hold on, let me put the link out there. And if anybody has any questions, or anything that they, any questions or anything they had on their mind from any of the recent videos that were going on, or y'all can definitely ask those questions or come up and give me correction. If you got some correction for me, you can come up and give me correction if necessary. Brother Chris Briggs in the building. Shalom, Aki. Shalom, family. And like I said, we just got this brother to say he gonna come on and just show us the methodology of why he feels that this is the name. And that's my challenge for those who just feel like they know the name. You know it. I'll give you the opportunity to come up here, but I want to see the methodology. You ain't just gonna be able to tell me the name now. You ain't gonna be able to just put no fluff on it. I'm gonna need to see the work. I need to see the paperwork. And you should have some familiarity with the language. You should, and be able to parse these things out. You can't be, hitting up the blue letter and then you gonna tell us the name. you out here depending on the blue letter. It's gonna be rough. You try to tell us the name. You gotta have some methodology. You gotta know how the language works. You gotta know if Hebrew is a VSO or SVO language. And I think it's different between the two, between the modern and the biblical Hebrew. You need to know the diacritic marks. We need to see how you come up with this. How you come up with this thing. And I haven't really seen a lot of people come up with it. Said if God didn't want Israel to mix, why he allow making captive women as wives? That's a great question. If he didn't want Israel to mix, why did he allow making captive women as wives? That is an ordinance in Deuteronomy. And that was one of the things that I was saying also when I did the class on when we did the video on it, that that still doesn't erase. That is a little more complicated than one with, it's not as cut and dry, because you do have that. They also gave the example of the Benjamites, being replenished with giving heathen women. But we do also see, the law. We also see where we're see that is sin also. You know what I'm saying? And so, we have to evaluate that also. And it depends. It's also a level of understanding about dispensations and, the dispensation, after Christ. And, what about a convert? Is a convert still considered a Gentile? Or those that are in the faith, are they still considered Gentile? I know some people say, well, if they in the faith, they Israel, and it's got a lot of different understandings that we look at with that, but we do see a clear cut um, issue with the mixing uh, of the races. Now, I want you to look up something. The brother who asked this, what do you mean by dispensations? I mean, Noah, I mean, Adam and Eve was told that they could eat, um, they only could eat the herbs of the earth. So that was that dispensation. Noah situation came and he was told he could eat all creatures. Noah was given certain laws. That was a dispensation. Levites, Israel comes. That was a dispensation. Christ comes. This is another dispensation. Like, I'll give you one more example. Um, when we go to the text and the young rich ruler says, well, what must I do to be saved? In that dispensation, yeah, keeping the law, statutes, and commandments was the answer. Faith wasn't in there yet. Why? Because Christ hadn't died. After Christ died, then, it wasn't just keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, but faith in Christ and being obedient to the law, statutes, and commandments. After that dispensation of Christ. All right, so it's different periods. There are shifts that end up happening. Um, and what I was going to tell you about the composition of the text. Shalom, you know that brother lie on me in your comments about his wife. I didn't appreciate that. Brother lie on me in your comments about his wife. I don't know. Man, brother, what's your name? I know it start with an S. And apologies, but I don't know exactly what you're talking about with the comments. I don't know if I can control the comments. I don't know. You know what I'm saying about. You said he lied on your wife, or you saying I lied on your wife? You know that brother lie on me in your comments about his wife. I didn't appreciate that. Man, come up. If it's something, we can get some understanding on it. And if it's something I did, I definitely Shawsham. There you go. Thank you, Lord. Shawsham. Yeah, if you felt like I said something, or we can get some understanding, we can definitely discuss it. And apology is needed. We can definitely talk about it. Shalom, out.
Hey, Shalom, most high bless.
Most I bless.
I'm coming in peace, brother. I'm saying the brother Milius, right, from the Willie Bullies, right? He put some false information.
From the Willie Bullies.
The guy that you liked his comment in one of the videos you commented off of my YouTube channel, FOP Israelites,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's my main YouTube platform that I use, right?
Gotcha.
Talking about adultery that happened in Israel, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So a situation occurred. Me and this brother had a problem. He put on there that I was lusting after his wife. That's false information. It's not true. Everybody know what happened in that situation. And I started trolling him and his wife because the man started trolling my Facebook page. He's a narcissist. He's like a female because I didn't want to argue with him about doctrine. He was bothering me day, night in back chats, trying to disrespect me and my cousin Elder Quanaf, making up false statements with us, causing division between us and other brothers, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we looked out for the brother, promoted the brother, his brand on their YouTube channel, helped him build up his YouTube channel. The other brothers stole his actual camp name, was the Bullies. I helped him out with that, and now they go by Negro only, right? So the
So
brother,
that
he
was on.
got
He
a
was he
problem.
was in he was in your body.
He was supposed to be a part of us, but then he
Gotcha.
decided not to. Even like his favorite target and who he go after the most is Sakari, and it's cool. He was a cool dude, man. But then After watching how he moved, I realized he's a narcissist and he want to be a leader. He want to be the face of something. He want a bunch of followers. Then he was trying to steal all our moderators, everybody, our whole movement. He even tried to hijack our show. Like the man is so slow. He had a Facebook group back chat with all of us in it, and he's telling everybody what he's going to do to us on our show live. Like we can't see what he putting in the back chat, and we can sit there and read it. What he talking about? That's how slow the guy is. He's that crazy. So
And you saying that's
you
the brother that left a comment on the video, on
yes,
my video?
you liked it. You liked
Mm-hmm.
the comment on him saying that I was less than that for his wife, and I commented twice to you because I was waiting for you to respond. But that's a lie. I never mentioned that man's wife or wanted his wife in any type of way. The problem was he, after I blocked him off of Facebook because I was sick of him bothering me, inboxing me every day, okay, tagging me in a bunch of posts that just didn't make sense. I got a bunch of other things to do in my life. I was in medical school at the time, dealing with my own family, having a bunch of deaths in my family, and he just was being a nuisance. And I was like, you know what? Every time you try to help brothers who don't have platforms, small platforms, what they do, they disrespect you, they turn your back on you. If we don't all agree on 100% on the same doctrine, they start talking crazy, man. And that's what he was doing. So I got away from that dude. Told Panaf, man, this guy is just trying to cause a bunch of problems, which he was doing. So because I blocked him and he got mad and I started trolling him, like he started making videos talking about us, right? What he did was he got on his wife Facebook page and started trolling pictures of me and my wife on Facebook off of his wife Facebook page. I didn't even know who she was. So what I did was I just used reverse psychology. I took pictures of his wife and him, and then I started saying his wife wanted me. That made him mad because I said, "Why are your wife on my Facebook page? How did she find my Facebook? I don't know your wife." Now think about that, brother. What kind of man does that? Bring your woman in the midst of war between men. That's not what men do. My wife would never be on another man's Facebook page trying to troll his pictures. Now, me and his wife, I didn't disrespect his wife and say anything bad about her because we pieced all this stuff out and we squashed it some time ago, maybe about almost 2 years ago, right? And his wife called him out on it and said, "You shouldn't have never been on my Facebook page, go on that man's Facebook page anyway." I would never talk about his wife because I thought it was actually his wife, but it was him. Now, I apologized to his wife and I told her I was sorry because I actually thought it was her, but it was him the whole time. But that's something foolish that another man would do using your wife's Facebook to try to troll another man. So his wife would have never been talked about if he never would have brought it in the midst of a battle between the disagreement that we really had. And I really didn't have a disagreement with him because I just felt like I don't want to argue with an idiot about doctrine. It didn't mean anything. So that was the case behind that. I don't have a problem with his wife. That's why I didn't talk about his wife no more. But see, he's a narcissist, right? You can get cool with the guy. He gonna come over here. He gonna be on your platform. Y'all gonna all have a good time. As soon as some doctrine you don't agree with, now he's gonna start making a bunch of videos about you. He's gonna start talking about you. He's gonna say you this. He's gonna say you that. That's how he gets down. He can't agree with his brother to disagree. Me and my brothers, we don't agree on everything, FOPE, family, right? Even with Queen Naphtali, we don't agree on the same doctrine, but we're not dissing each other. We're not making open videos talking about each other and doing crazy stuff like that. That's how he do. He think he know everything. And he think he's right on everything. He had a falling out with everybody who he teach with. That's why he by himself now. So I never committed adultery in Israel with nobody's wife, brother. I've been said it years ago. Anybody got proof? Bring it out. But I know majority of the people who have, I witnessed it with my own eyes. Been around a lot of these brothers, seen them doing foul stuff. That's why I separated myself from Israel and don't deal with Israel no more because of their wickedness. Even when it came to Israel getting mad at us for exposing elder men dealing with children, they didn't. They don't have a problem with elder men, 50 something years old, marrying a 13-year-old, 14-year-old girl, 12-year-old, right? Using it to justify
Shalakia, one
scripture.
second now. Let me just thank the brother for the super chat. Brother
No problem.
Gilon, appreciate you for the super chat, brother. Appreciate you supporting the ministry. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying, brother. I wasn't trying to come invade your show, but I just wanted you to know that this is why I step away from Israel because a lot of these guys are wicked and there's no truth in them. You can help them as much as you want, or whatever like that. But all these guys is about money and fame. That's why they do what they do. They love the camera, they love attention, and they want a bunch of followers. See, I don't care about that. I got a whole life. I don't need YouTube, but I teach as the best as I can and righteously for people to know the truth. It's not about making money to me or having a big following. And some of these guys, man, they like the little dog just trying to hump on the big dog because they want to be the leader so bad because they want attention. That's the kind of guy he is. So that's all I'm saying. You got to be careful when people posting stuff on your comment section. They could be saying anything, man. You don't really know these guys. I've been around a lot of these guys for years. These dudes ain't who they say they are. There was nobody in the world and ain't nobody in Israel. The only reason why they somebody in Israel because they got a little light on YouTube and people think they famous. That's why they always say the quote, never meet your idols. Because when you meet them in person, you'll find out who they really are and be disappointed. A lot of these people I thought was good people and righteous, and I met them in person. I was disappointed because I watched them lie, commit adultery, do all types of stuff. And I never thought that they would do this kind of stuff. That's all I'm saying, brother. I just wanted to clear that up to let you know because that's on your comment board. That man saying that I was lusting after his wife or trying to get with his wife. That's incorrect. Never went after that man's wife. I never knew who his wife was until he jumped on my Facebook page and started trolling me and pictures of my wife. So I had to block. I already blocked him. Then I had to block his wife off my page. And that's why I asked everybody, what kind of man wife is on another man page that's married to another man? Make that make sense. But it wasn't his wife. So because I disrespected his wife, I apologized to his wife. It was him. So ask yourself, what kind of man would get on his wife's Facebook to come at another man that he got a problem with? It don't make sense. It's very effeminate. That's all I just wanted to clear up, brother.
All right, Doc. All right. And I like and comment everybody. Every comment. I hit a thumbs up and hit a whether they cussing me out. You know what I'm saying? And
I
totally
understand.
disagree with me. I still will like the post. If I felt like you did something, I'll speak on it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. I just
if
wanted to
I
clear it up because I don't
yeah,
want no people
cuz,
thinking that there's allegations out there on me like that when it's not true.
right.
I can't let nobody
Oh,
slander my name, brother. Like my name is everything in the world and even in Israel. That's all. I
God,
appreciate it.
con. Not a problem,
Shalom.
brother. Appreciate you coming up and clearing that up.
All right. Shalom.
Shalom. Shalom, the Bread and Wine podcast. Shalom, brother.
Hey, Shalom, Mark. This is my name on YouTube is was Keenan Terry the second.
Oh, Keenan Thomas. You here to break that thing down for us, break the name down for us. Okay, all praises.
But my
That's what we
Hebrew,
here for.
my Hebrew name is Yahuka said. Uh,
Yahuka said,
yeah, Yahuka said.
Khan.
So, all right. So I'm gonna be transparent. Is that um I too had questions on like why do we say like the assembly that I'm a part of? Why do we say Yahuwah?
Are you part of
So,
House of Wisdom?
no, I'm
Okay.
part of the Path to Yahuwah and My Living Branch.
Okay. I'm familiar. You make out the board game?
No, that's a different one.
Okay.
That's a different one. Um,
Got you.
yeah, so it's basically two separate assemblies, but basically all together. It's the Path to Yahuwah and then My Living Branch. So so
Got
yeah,
you.
but yeah, I had some questions about Yahuwah's name on why we say it and everything like that. And I asked my Moray, I said, why do we say Yahuwah's name? So he told me that is this book called The Mysterious Name, YHWH, by Dr. M. Riesel, Reisel. Um, and specifically it says this on page now on the page is actually 40, and for this you're gonna have to know like basic letters in Hebrew. You got to know the letters in Hebrew. Now me personally, I am not fluent in Hebrew. I just had questions. He sent me this, I looked it up, and then I went on from there. So I'm not saying that you need to say this. If you don't say this, you're not saved. Not any of that. I'm
Mm,
just want to give some information on why we say Yahuah.
got you.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, make that clear. All right. So this is what it says from the Library of Davidson College. It says in an earlier paragraph, we concluded to the original pronunciation, and this is how they spell it, YHWH, on the basis of a comparison of the form, and this is in the Greek, IXOVE, mentioned by Clemens. And I can show this to you if you want me to screen share and just show it and everything if you want me to do that.
Is it in a book or you have it on the screen? You can show it on the screen for everybody to
I
see.
can show it on the screen. I have it on the
Yeah, you
screen.
can share it for us.
Okay. Bear with me. I'm kind of new to this jump. How do I share?
Uh, I'm fairly, I'm fairly new too. To be 100.
Let me see if I present.
Yeah,
Share.
present it, and then I think I get the option to share it if you present it.
Yeah, I got it right here. Okay, that's fine. Let me see. I thought it let me do it, but hold on.
No, that's
Let me
me.
see. Let me see downloads. Dang. You know what? I do not know how to share on this thing. To be honest with you.
Well, just go ahead. You said the Greek. You got the book, the mystery names.
Yeah.
Um, and he's saying they went to this pronunciation because
Yeah. So
of the
it's
Greek
been.
spelling. How did that Greek spelled again?
It is an I. It looks like an I. So it's an apostrophe before it, but the apostrophe is in reverse. Then it's an I, and it looks like an X, and then it looks like an O, and then almost like a V or a U, and then an E.
Okay, so because of how it's written out in the Greek document, they built the pronunciation from that.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna show
Okay.
something from Josephus. Josephus has something pretty interesting as well.
Okay.
So this is the form mentioned by Clemens with some magical forms, and with the Ethiopian alternative form, which is Yahuah, which is YAHOUE with an asterisk over above it. It says recorded by Bassett, as well as with the Yo Hey Wah Hey Hey. Right. So in terms of like the tetragrammaton, those four characters,
Right.
how we pronounce it is a Yo Hey Wah Hey. So how they said it, recorded by Bassett, as well with the Yod Hey Wah Hey Hey forms mentioned by Gaster. In the sound, this form corresponds more closely with the older alternative conjunction of Hey Wah Hey, which was influenced by the Hey Wah Aleph, or the Aleph, Aleph, however you want to pronounce it, functioning as a participle. Then with the normal conjugation, underlining, for instance, the younger ayet, asher, ayet. So basically, they're saying how they're coming out with the sound is coming from the I am that I am, the ayet, asher, ayet, and how they actually pronounce it. So this is more of the sound. All right. So it says the form YAHUAH may therefore be a result of a development from this alternative conjugation or from an intentional connection with the alternative conjugation on the basis of corresponding in sound. This development may also be influenced by the fact that for the primitive man, God is the mysterious, awful He. He causes man to be born. He causes man to die. He causes the rain to descend. He causes the sun to shine. He causes famine and abundance. He imparts curses and blessings. Frank Rosenberg observes that also in the biblical sphere, man knew God only as He, as long as He had not manifested Himself as I. We shall now examine how the tetragrammaton may have developed from the alternative conjunction of the Hey Wah Hey or the Hey Yod Hey, respectively, how it can be connected with the alternative conjunction. It says 5 stages may be distinguished in this process. The imperfect was the YHWU. So I guess this is Yahuah or Yahuah. Then there's another Hebrew word, which is the Yod, the Kof, the Hey, and the Mem, which is YQUM, right? Yakum, or however you want to pronounce it, which according to H.B. Bauer, Bauer, and P. Leander, and C. Brooklynman, Brockelmann, A, and then Ugnad, Ungnad, and others was originally Yaqumu, Yakumu. This verbal form was brought in relation to God in Exodus 3:14 and 15, and thus a verb developed into a noun. In this process, the short U suffix was considered as the ending of a nominative, on the account of the frequent use of divine names as an object of worship among the Semites, and use of an accusative, which was also in the case as in the Arabic appellation of Subhananu and Yamina Lai, and perhaps also the Hebrew Alua or Aleph Lamed Yud Hey, so Aluh, Alua, which led to the development of the divine appellation Yahuwah or Yahuwah. This latter form, in turn, underwent a change. The pronunciation of the W or the Yod, of the the Wa, was biliable, biliable, Bilabial, and I'm gonna go to the dictionary to define that because I still don't understand really what that means to a certain degree. The fact also that the preceding U was pronounced bilabially obliterated the bilabial character of this W and made YHWA, Yahuwah, sound like YAHUAH. So basically, from what I understand that to say, is basically in terms of how it's spelled, they made it sound like this, so that they're basically saying the same exact thing, but in terms of how they're spelling it. This YAHUAH, Yahuwah, became Yahuwah or Yehuah, since in a syllable preceding the stress of a short vowel is lengthened, or it is pronounced with the shua. In various, it says these forms, which can be spelled Yod Hey Wahe or Yod Hey Wahe. Now, how it spells Yod Hey Wahe is with the Nakud system or the vowel pointing system that the Masoretics inducted after Babylon in terms of maintaining the language. Show together with that Greek word, the IXOUE, and the YAHOUE, and the Yod Hey Wah Hey Hey, and some magical affiliations, the original pronunciation of YHWH. So, so that's like a part of it. Then
So
another
you
part,
saying so you got the Greek pronunciation that they're deriving from. You saying also the
the
Naku markers or
the Nakud
in
markers
the
and the
in the
Arabic
Masoretic
pronunciation, Arabic pronunciation as well.
and Arabic
Mhm.
pronunciation.
Yeah, and Arabic is like the sister language to the Hebrew. Like a lot of their things, like
Right, right.
you say
It's
shalom, they say shalom.
right.
You know? So a lot of the sounds are corresponding. It says the form Yod Hey Wah Hey reminds us of the Hey, Wa, Aleph, Ha, and Aleph, which we found earlier to be equivalent to Yod Hey Wah Hey. I think that's deriving from the Ayet or the Hayet. It says in certain dialects, Yahuwah may be read as YEHUHA or Yahuah, for which hypothesis we may point to the pronunciation of the Hey, which even today is current among Sephardic Jews. Now, when I was looking at this, it had the different point systems in terms of the dots, the dashes, and I'm like, bro, I don't know what none of this stuff is. So what I did was I just did some research on it, and you can't even see that, can you? You can't see that, can you?
No, hold on. Let me see.
Yay, nay.
Yeah, we seen it.
All right.
Hold on
So
1 second. Let me see if Divine wanted to come on.
Divine Prospect.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fire. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, the Yahoo. We get this from the theoretic name of the Escrits from the 8th and 6th century, and we also from the Temple of Soleb and the Army of West Temples. Yeah, I've never heard that, so that's new information to me. I'm just bringing out, what we got.
And all praises, man. We appreciate that. Like I said, I'm not here to, here to say yay or nay on anything. I just want to see methodology. For those who, speak and say that they know it and so forth. I just want to see the methodology for how they're coming up with these
Yahoo.
pronunciations.
Yeah, I understand that.
Shalom, brother Divine.
Hey, shalom, Phineas. How you doing, brother?
I can't complain, brother.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, brother. What was your name, brother?
Yahuka said we had a conversation on what's it called? Dang, what's that
I know
app
you're
called?
familiar.
Everybody be arguing.
Clubhouse.
Yeah. We had a
Yeah.
conversation a while ago. You had sent me a couple of your books. I mean, we only had talked like a couple of times, but
Yeah.
shalom to you, bro. Shalom.
Yeah, shalom. Yeah, I was just intrigued by the topic. I was just complimenting what's being said with some data in the chat, and just kind of hearing your breakdown of Yahuwah. I like the methodology, and the approach is pretty scholarly. So I didn't know if this was a pre-recorded session or a live session, and just wanted to just add a couple of things, if that's okay, kind of build.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So what was that source that you was reading from?
The Mysterious Name, YHWH by Dr. M. Riesel, Reisel.
Okay.
So there's a lot of Greek in there.
Mhm.
Hold on, let me see something.
I don't know if I read that before.
Yeah, my More gave this to me, sent this to me via PDF.
Okay. And who's that, if you don't mind me asking?
Lamad Yahu.
That's my brother, Lamad Yahu.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, our brother go back. Yes, I know his perspective, and a couple other people in the community's perspective, that Yahuwah is like the original and or the most authentic rendering of the divine name. I used to be a proponent of that back in 2014, 2015 to 2016. So about 2.5 years I was supporting that position, and then I went deeper into my Hebrew linguistic studies and philology, and I discovered that the proponents of that, there's a couple of I guess weak points with it. Not saying that the actual rendering of it is incorrect altogether, because this is something that we are going to continue to have ambiguity in, because nobody was around that time to actually say the name. right?
Mhm.
So we're all on this journey to try to figure out and put the pieces together, figure out like what's going on here. So what I like to do is I like to go back to the earliest immaterial, material cultural records that exist. This is anything that we find in the archaeological record, like I had mentioned in the chat. So one good one is the Samaritan Astrakhan, right? In the Samaritan Astrakhan, there is a lengthy amount of names because this Astrakhan is a list of items that are being donated to a temple and or as a tribute or tax to the monarchy at that time. And this ranges around the 8th or 7th century BCE. And one way to kind of look at the familial lineage of a particular name of a deity is in what's called theophoric names, right? So a theophoric name is a name like Lamad Yahu, right? Lamad is the appellation, and then you have it syntax with Yahu, which would be the name of the creator. So we have preservation of those names from the northern kingdom, and then later on in about the late 7th, 6th century, a preservation of the same kind of lineage of YHWH in the southern kingdom of Judea, right? And these like the oldest names that we have of Hebrew is going to have either El or it's going to have Yah, less we have the shortened forms today that we get from the literature. But even in the literature, you also have the suffix Yahu in the literature, which is believed to be an anachronism. Well, not anachronism, excuse me, an archaism. It's an anachronism. I'm getting tired. But it's an archaism. So archaism pretty much something that exists in a current text that goes further back than the actual written text itself because it's using a style or technique that the text is not consistently utilizing. So therefore, it is something that's a feature set of something that's much older. So according to scholars, the actual text did not get completed until either exile or post-exile. Some say that the R part of the text was completed by Ezra and Nehemiah during that time period, that it was redacted with whatever previous text that they had. Redaction was done for harmony purposes to make sure all the texts agree with each other and everything like that. So the Astrakhan that I mentioned earlier, that goes back before the final revision that we have in the text that we have today, right? So that goes back again to about the 7th, 8th century. And we see the same thing on any kind of tribute text where it makes a reference to these theophoric names, right? Because these things come from family, they're given and passed down through family, and they're used to identify not only the family themselves, but their worship of the deity and the deity that they subscribe to. Oh, you got it, brother.
Yeah, I just had a question. You said in terms of like the redaction that happened during possibly Ezra and Nehemiah, do you hold the position that those might have possibly been originally written in Aramaic?
No.
Okay.
So the Aramaic portions of Ezra comes later. So we
Okay.
talk about the 5th century, and then we have the Aramaic portions of Daniel, which comes even later than that, to about the 2nd century BCE. And we know that because when we look at Neo-Persian texts. Oh, where'd the brother go?
I don't know. It seems like he just dropped out. But
Hopefully he
the
comes back.
Daniel, you talking about like the last, like the what chapter 7 and back or
Yep.
9 and back?
Yep. Yeah. So you have
Okay.
the portions that are written Aramaic. So there's a great source. Let me go grab it real quick. Hold on one second. And let me know if you need me. Oh, he's back. Let me know if you need me to get on camera too. I can show what I have. Just let me know, Brother Phineas, if you need me on camera. Let me just go grab this source real quick.
Understood. Brother Nova Visuals, you had anything while Brother Divine goes and grabs that source?
Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm not trying to throw y'all off or nothing, but I used to be like I used to judge people by how they say the father's name Yahuah or how they say Yahweh until I started studying the Hebrew language and stuff and realized that the government then translated our language so many times, so we really don't know. what they're trying to teach us, but it's like this. I'm gonna go ahead and break it down to y'all. All right, what's a W?
Two U's.
Okay, yeah, you caught on quick. Okay, what's a W again?
Hmm?
It's a U, but what's a W?
It's two U's.
Nah, two V's.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
that's from the
okay.
modern early
Oh yeah, yeah,
English.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
only this only applies to English, right? We don't have that in the Hebrew. The Hebrew has a
Yeah, that's
wild.
that's what they tell
Yeah.
us. That's what they tell us. And what I'm
Uh,
trying to
mhm. Yeah, brother, you got
tell
it.
y'all, like in Exodus chapter 6, verses 2 through 3, when it reads, and Elohim spoke to Moshe and said to him, I am Yahweh, and I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as El Shaddai, but by my name Yahweh was I not known to them. Y'all know what El Shaddai mean, right?
The Almighty.
There you go. Okay, so I'm gonna read it again. And Elohim spoke to Moshe and said to him, I am Yahweh, and I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as El Shaddai.
So is that so? In terms of that particular verse, I've seen a couple of different versions that it's actually a rhetorical question.
Correct.
Mhm.
So if it's a rhetorical question, that means they did know the name of Yod He Wahe, or how we say Yahuwah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
they didn't know Yahweh. They didn't know Yahuwah, Yahweh.
Well, they knew the Yod He Wahe in terms of his
Yeah, yeah,
divine.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Cool. 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 All right.
But
So
also,
so your proposition, so then when you look at Better Sheet or Genesis, right? Your
mhm,
proposition is when we see Yod Hey Wafe in there, how is that interpreted by you?
because before then, Yahuwah told Moshe, I am who I am.
So in Genesis,
Yod Hey Wah Hey.
yeah, we find that in Genesis. So how do you account for that showing up in Genesis, especially Genesis chapter 2?
All right, what you mean by Genesis chapter 2?
Yod Hey Wafe shows up in Genesis chapter 2.
Okay,
Mhm.
but I'm saying, like, what are you saying?
So that means the author who's putting together the book of Genesis, they know the divine name and they're expressing the divine name throughout the entire book of Genesis before we get to Exodus. The
Okay, so
divine
why
name.
did the excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you off,
You good,
but
brother?
why did Yahuwah tell Moshe to tell the children of Israel to call him this?
Yeah. So the reason why you find the divine name in Genesis is because this is something that is written in retrospect. So the author, when he's putting together Genesis, he's including the divine name because he's showing you the moments in which the Most High is being intimate with his creation, such as in Genesis 2, right? So in Genesis 1, we see Elohim that's mentioned there. It's not Yod He Wav He. And when you see Elohim, there's no conversation with the creation that he's made. There's no direct or intimate interaction with it. He creates it and it is. When you get to Genesis 2, Elohim is moved to the side. Yod He Vav He is used. And now you see intimacy where he's creating Adam from the ground, breathing life into him. He's having a communication with him, right? So now you see a different aspect of the deity interacting with his creation. And the reason why this is being done is because it's a polemic or even apologetic against the Mesopotamian creation myths, or what we call anthropogenesis creation myths at that time, because the gods did not care about man,
Mhm.
especially in the ancient Sumerian text. The Igigi were the
Mhm,
entities that wanted to replace man with the labor that the gods, the Anunnaki, had given them. And if we go to other creation myths like Unuma Elish, Atrahasis, etc., these deities don't care. Man is an afterthought, right? He's never
mhm.
intimate with his creation, the gods, right? But here in Scripture, the Most High is intimate with his creation. So the author is putting that in retrospect, according to what you just read, because he said he did not reveal his personal name to the forefathers, but he's given it to Moses for the first time. That's how you account for why the divine name is in Genesis, because you'll have some people who hate the Bible that say, well, then why is it in Genesis, right? And then you'd have to explain that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, well, yeah, that just answered my question then.
Yeah, you good, brother. I like what you was bringing out. I was just complimenting. That's why I just wanted to ask that. Okay, so then why do we see it in Genesis? Because that would be the next question. Like, okay, if he didn't reveal it, then why did it say the Lord came to Abraham, right? Like in Genesis chapter 18, and they're gonna say, oh, so then if Abraham knew it, then how did the children of Israel not know it, right? According to Exodus chapter 3, then we would have to explain that, right? You have to say, oh,
Yeah.
well, this is why. You know what I'm saying? So,
Uh-huh.
yeah. That's
Okay,
all.
okay.
Just
All
compliment.
right.
I appreciate you, brother Nova. I'm gonna let somebody else up. I do want to say this too, because we do have Divine on here. This, I don't know if you know who's up here, but um, it's not a milky conversation at this point, guys. The brother's well respected and dealing with the language and linguistics. It's a opportunity. It's a pleasure for us to have his time here.
Got to give him his flowers.
Got to give him his flowers, yeah, and his reverence. I don't want it to be too milky. Asking certain questions, and we spend his time just doing, things that's kind of, I don't want to
You
dumb
gotta
him
explain
down
Oh,
yourself
too
you're
much,
better.
and
good.
I'm not trying to disrespect the, what I'm saying.
All
I
praise
just
to the
because I
Most
know
High.
people don't really, they may not know him on this channel.
Oh yeah,
So I just want to give that, like, we have a teacher here,
do
so
a proper introduction. Yeah, absolutely.
right. So I just want to bring that out first.
I appreciate you, brothers. All praise to go to the Most High. Y'all know.
All praise.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Um,
bring you down though, Nova, and bring this other brother up, man. If you
All
don't
right, that's
mind.
cool.
All
That's
right,
cool.
brother.
Appreciate
Appreciate
you,
you.
Nova.
yes, sir.
Shalom.
Shalom to you, bro.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom, brother.
Shalom.
Caleb.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Shalom.
Yeah, this is my brother Yahuah said. We're part of the Bread and Wine podcast.
Okay. That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Good to see y'all in here. I think this is a great topic. I mean, since Brother Phineas has taken over this channel, I've been watching this for some time now. You know what I'm saying? He just be doing commentaries on everything that be going on in the community. I don't be knowing half the stuff that be going on, but his notification come up because I subscribed to Prince of Power some time ago, and I'm like, who's doing all these commentaries? And then the brother just be going right into it and just keeping me abreast of what's going on in Israel, man. So I got to give the brother credit for that. He does excellent commentary. Like if this was written, and that this would be called midrash, right? In regards to what's actually happened historically in the Israelite community today. You know what I'm saying?
Gotta give him his flowers.
Yeah.
God, all
I
praise,
appreciate
man. All
that.
praise to the Most High.
Yeah, I've seen you a couple of times too. So when he was like, "Yeah, I'm going on live on Prince of Power, talk about the name of Yahuah," I'm like, "Prince of Power," and then I saw you. I was like, "Oh, there we go. There he is."
Oh man, where the rest of those brothers? I don't see nobody else from that channel here anymore.
Man, I kind of they around. It's just I had to relocate.
Yeah.
So until we get things restructured and back together, start back doing the class, I bring them back up and whatnot. But I wanted to kind of build the channel up. We was at about 300 subscribers for about 8 years.
You built it up. You almost at 2,000 now.
Right. All praises to us. So you just wanted to build the channel up a little more and get things restructured, and then we'll bring those classes and things back out. But it's hard for Israel to digest that. You got to put some whipped cream and some cherries and some other stuff on before you give them those lessons like that and those PowerPoint slides and all that.
I mean, you brought these brothers from Bread and Wine up here talking about the name, so you're already bringing, some serious stuff up here already.
Right. He took the challenge. I was just telling them. I was just did in the video. I was like, well, if anybody gonna say it, if you gonna say it, you can come up here and give your methodology on how you came about that pronunciation. And the brother took the challenge, and I was like, well, if you want to do it now, let's do it now.
He
And
defended it well. And if it's coming from Elder Lamar Yahu, my Zachin, he's one of my elders. You know what I'm saying? Him and Milton Carnes, those are two of my elders right there. So, me and Lamar Yahu had numerous conversations about this subject matter. You know what I'm saying? And I respect his position because he's actually in the field doing work. You know what I'm saying? Like in the land, doing the studies and everything like that. And he's been doing so longer than I've been in the truth. So I gotta respect our elders that came before us. But now since they are doing what they're doing, now they're leaving that in our hands to have these discussions, you know what I'm saying, amongst ourselves. So do you have anything to add to that, Caleb?
Yeah, I'll just briefly state my position. So, of course, I'm part of the Bread and Wine podcast. So we use the name Yahuah. I used to be one of those people that if you said anything other than Yahuah, you're going to hell. And then I learned some Hebrew and I said, okay, I understand how people are getting these other names. So even if I don't necessarily agree, I can't sit back and say there's no scholarly or linguistic perspective on how you get Yahweh or even Yahweh, or not Yahweh, or Yahuah or Yahovah. I understand how they're coming to that conclusion, even if there might be some places where I'm like, nah, I don't agree with that. But I'm always open to, I could be incorrect on that. But as of right now, I think Yahuah would be the name that I would stick with.
Yeah, and the brothers that say Yah-oh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't understand Yah-oh. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't see how Yah-oh, because I don't.
I mean, the brother Ben
Yeah.
Dora, he wrote a whole article on this, and it's on academia.edu. The brother who spearheaded that movement in our community.
Okay.
And it's very scholarly. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree with that as far as being the name either. But like I said to the brother, that this is like a ambiguous discussion because we're going to give our cases for it, but because we can't resurrect nobody from that time period to try and figure out, hey, what y'all say? How'd y'all say the creator's name? Because so much happened. You know what I'm saying? We see that southern tribes during an invasion. So here's another interesting fact. So when the Babylonians had taken over, the Neo-Babylonian Empire was crumbling. When they were being sieged by the Persians, right? And we know, according to Isaiah chapter 45, that's prophetic, right? The Most High used them to crush the Persians, to crush the Babylonians because of what they was doing to Israel. But when they came in, you had their priests were the Chaldeans, right? And what happened was these Persians were, very interesting, like how we see them depicted in 300, like they're like savages and they don't care about nobody. They'll eat whatever. They just was thought as savages, even though they treated people more decently than the Babylonians did, which is interesting, right?
Yeah, they treated our people pretty nice.
Yeah, very nice. Let them go back to repatriate to the land and everything. You know what I'm saying? Gave them land grants, gave them autonomy with their culture and everything. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, very nice. Yeah. So during that time period, the Neo-Syrian, Neo-Babylonian Empire, the Chaldean priests, when the Persians were coming in, they were, I would say, I'm not gonna say scared, but they were bothered by the fact that they would come into their temples and they would discover the name of their patron deity Marduk, and they would try to say his name as a what we would call a pagan or a heathen or somebody that's unclean, right? So what they did was they tried their best to excise the name and started calling their deity Bel, which is a form of Baal, right? So Bel means Lord, right? Like Baal can also mean Lord. It could be a proper name for a deity or whatever. But they use Bel. Now, at this time, the Israelites are in Babylon when this is occurring. So interestingly enough, when the Greeks take over after the Persians, and we see a situation where, the Jews are outsourced to put together the LXX or Septuagint, they take out the divine name. And we don't see until much later where the divine name is then added to about the couple of Septuagint manuscripts that we have. Like the actual Paleo is actually written in there and amongst the Greek, right, to kind of preserve the name. We know the name wasn't lost because we have them in the Dead Sea Scrolls where we have Paleo Hebrew, like 4Q22 from Exodus. We have that in there that preserves the Paleo Hebrew with the divine name in it. And we know in the Bar Kokhba revolt that they were using the Paleo Hebrew and writing the divine name, even incising it into the coins of the Roman Empire at the time. You know what I'm saying? So we know the name was never lost, but they removed it from out of the Hellenistic tongue of Koine Greek. So that way, when the Greeks read the text, they're not profaning the name of the Most High. So they're borrowing a page from out of the Babylonians, I would say, their playbook. So that way their enemy doesn't have power over them by being able to pronunciate the name of their deity, right? And there's a good book on that. I'll drop it in the chat as a link and y'all can take a look at it and check it out. But it's really interesting history when we go into the sacred name. And because that happened, we lost the true Nikud that you had mentioned, brother, to actually know how to pronunciate it. So the form we get from the Masoretes was their tradition that they preserved. Right, that doesn't make it original, but that's what they were able to preserve. Matter of fact, if you go and look at the Palestinian and Babylonian from the Geniza Cairo manuscripts, so the Geniza Cairo, Geniza is like an archive that has a bunch of scrolls, and in those scrolls we actually have a different Nikud system. The markings are above the consonants, and they have a different pronunciation system than what we get from the Masoretes, and they date earlier than the Masoretic system. So we see that depending on who's writing it and who's preserving it, there's different ways to say it. Because of captivity, we lost the true pronunciation. You know what I'm saying? So we're all on this journey to reconstruct it and give a case for why it should be, to show our fervent desire to call back on the name of the Most High Yah, you know. So I'll step back. Yeah, I just wanted to share that, and I'll drop a couple of links in the chat.
Copy that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I knew that some of the older vowel points were written above. I didn't know the pronunciation was different. I've never looked into. I just know that they exist where they're above the actual letters instead of below. I believe the Babylonians did that too, where they had it written above instead of below. But I didn't know the pronunciation was different. That's something to look into.
Also, my phone finished.
Go ahead, brother.
I know we kind of went away from it to a certain, not even really didn't go away from it, but we talked about like the dots and the dashes and the systems, the Nikud system that's used in the Masoretic vowel pointing system. So Devon, are you familiar with the Mapeak? I know you probably are, but can you give, like, I guess a fifth grade understanding of the Mapeak?
Sure. So get Psalm 68 and 4. And Brother Phineas, I don't know if we can share our screen or whatever, but if we go there and look it up in the Hebrew, we'll be able to see an actual Mapeak with the creator's name in it. Yeah.
You said 68 and 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he wants it on the screen.
Yep. So everybody can see it. Yeah.
The interlinear.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can pull it up. Say Psalms, what now? Psalms 68
and 4. Mm-hmm.
Oh, snap! It is right there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So a lot of people, when they read that, they'll see like, hey, this is one preservation of the divine name that David or David called on, right? Where we have that final Mapeak Dagesh and the hey that's there, right? So we got Yah. So what happens is when you open up with the chametz, with the you're cutting it down with the ha. So it's a hard ha that's stopping the flow of air that's coming out that is opened up with the chametz, right? So that's used there. Some say stylistically it's there. Some say it's like an orthographical feature that is ancient, right? That really doesn't have much usage anymore. Some say that it's a pointer for the Mater Lecciones, which from my perspective is probably going to be the most earliest way that you pronounce the name. And that's another conversation, but that's what it's there for. Dagesh has several purposes, right? It can double 2 letters, right? Depending on what's going on. And you can use that for the PL stem as well, which is the intensive. It can also be there to change a vowel sounding. It could be there for an older orthographical use that we no longer understand or have today. But it's there to also, it can also pronounce the ah sound in some way. And that's why sometimes they say it could be a Mater Lecciones pointer, right? So in this case, it would be Yah, and that would be there to kind of show you how the ah sound, the ah sound is actually used with the kamets. If it's shortened, if it's elongated, etc. Right? So that's pretty much like crash course on it. But again, this is a feature that's only used by the Masoretes. Like we don't see it in amongst the Dead Sea Scrolls, canon of scripture, being used. We also don't see it in those Geniza Cairo manuscripts, right? We don't see it also in the Samaritan Pentateuch, because it's only 2 places. So Psalm 68 and 4, and then the other one is in Exodus, right? So
Hold tight real quick. Brother Phineas, I don't know. I'm my fault. I didn't explain what the my peak is.
Yeah,
So
you didn't go over that, brother.
Yeah, my bad. That's on me. I'm getting ahead. So you see where it says by, and then it says it's like the bet, the yod, and the hay, where it says by right there. You see that dot that's in the middle of that hay or that H? That's the my peak. So in
See
terms of
bet, yeah, you see it
Yeah.
right there.
yeah,
It says
that
H3050.
It's the H sound.
Yeah. So
I have a question really quick though, because you said that the my peak could be in relation to the Metris Lexiconus, the mother.
Correct.
It's like, okay, if I'm not mistaken, you wouldn't really need vowel points in that system because certain letters act as vowels depending on where they are in the word.
Correct.
So, are you just saying that that's like a marker to show where that was used, or
Correct. That's why I said yeah. So
So wait a minute. All right,
because Matres Lecciones was not used by the Masoretes, right?
No,
but
they abandoned it.
but they're coming from a textual transmission history or family or lineage. So they've over time preserved certain archaisms that they no longer use, right? But maybe in another text that they had before they added the Nikud to it, it had different markings or was used to indicate something. So they're pretty much carrying that technique over without actually having much need or expression for it, right? That's why we don't see them on peak as much as we should if it was something that they would have actively used, like for the divine name or something like that. It's just missing. It's only in 2 places. The other place is in Exodus chapter 15. You'll see it there too. Now, this is good because this is outside of the Tanakh. Well, outside of the Ketuvim, but it's in the Torah, so you can compare it with other things like the Pentateuch, the Samaritan Pentateuch, the Nash Papyrus, the Sahidic text, and you can actually take a look at it and see if they have a similar feature there for a pointing, right? For like a Mater Lecciones. So go to Exodus chapter 15, and I believe it's in verse 2. But when you read it, it says, this is the song of the sea, right? It says, then Moses and the people of Israel sang this song to the Lord, saying, I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown in the sea. And then you get verse 2, and it says, the Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him, my father's God, and I will exalt him. So take a look at 15 and 2, and you interlinear and see if the my peak is there. Now you'll have it without the BAPE preposition that we saw in 68 and 4, and it's there. The my peak is there, right? So this lends credence to some people making an argument saying that, oh, well, Yah could have been the earliest form, and then over time, you didn't have another form of it develop, maybe in the monarchical period, or maybe during the period of judges, when every man did was right in his own sight, and they had maybe forgot some stuff and tried to restore it. Or it could have been done by some royal scribes under the rule of David, because we see it in one of his Psalms, or it could have come much later, right? But it's a form of the name that we only see twice in the entire Bible. We don't see it like that anywhere else. And scholars say that in the book of Exodus or anywhere else, if you see a song, that is an old portion of that text, right? It's probably the oldest portion of the text is going to be an actual song that's preserved, like in Exodus 15. And we know that from David's Psalms, he's getting this from old knowledge, right? That David has direct communication with the Most High, and he's keeping on with the tradition of those who are righteous before him. And he's trying to restore everything when he has his kingdom, right? That Saul and the judges had damaged and messed up. So that's another argument to say that this could be a reason why Yah is probably the earliest form, is because of that Mapik that we really don't see for the name anywhere else in the text. And it could be an archaism that was preserved through a scribal tradition of just maintaining old methods or techniques that's used in the textual transmission history that they're pulling from. You know what I'm saying? So it's very interesting. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, in regards to that my peak being there, why it's there, it's again, it's up in the air in regards to discussion. So
yeah,
it's very fascinating.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that it's just a lot of stuff with the name that just because of the history and how much has been lost, it's like we're trying to piece this stuff together. And like I said, it makes sense individually, but when you're just trying to put it all together, it's like, okay, which is earlier, which is later. I definitely understand the songs. I know pretty much all the songs I know of in the scripture that are recorded. Like you said, they say they're pretty early, like the song of Deborah and things like that.
Yeah.
So, and then I think Job, they say as well, is a very early,
very old text.
Yeah, very, very old.
Yes,
and that's
sir.
really kind of poetry. So, okay.
Yes, sir. So, I'm gonna drop this really, really good book that I think all of us should read. And this scholar that put it together, it was his doctoral dissertation, and then he turned it into a full-fledged 381-page book. And the name of the book is called Making Sense of the Divine Name in the Book of Exodus, From Etymology to Literary Onomastics by Austin D. Searles. So as we know, etymology is looking at the root or the sheresh of a word, and onomastics is the study of names, right? So what he does is that he combs through the entire Tanakh and looks into archaeology, looks into other sister texts, and tries to find out how the divine name was pronounced, what the original divine name was, and how it, morphed over time. And then he cites plenty of other scholars, primary sources, and scripture, right? So he did an excellent job with this book, and I implore everybody here to read this. It's a really, really good read. I'm gonna drop it in the chat for y'all.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And with me, I'll just say this and I'll land. When I look at the divine name, scripture is one source. And then I try to see, okay, what's the earliest usage of the name that we can identify, or that's identified in regards to the Most High? You know what I'm saying? That we may have like any archaeological record. And that's why I reference what I put in the chat in regards to the Temple of Soleb and the Temple of Amarna West. These are two temples where the king had captured, the Egyptian king captured prisoners and created a cartouche or a shen, which is like that oval. Then it has the name of the people, and then it has them underneath bounded as prisoners. And one of those prisoners that we're probably familiar with is the Shashu of YHWH. And the scholars trying to figure out, well, what is YHWH? Is it a toponym? Is it the name of the deity? Is it the name of the people? But when
I've heard some people say it's the name of a place.
A place, yeah. So they believe that as a topographical feature, it was a place where the Shashu would come and have corporate worship to some deity, and that area would be called that because of that. Just like a founder of a place, like Canaan. right, is an actual son in scripture, right, in Genesis 10, but a land is named after him, right? And they would say these things as well, like, okay, so maybe this is either a name of an ancestor of theirs or a deity, and they just used it to call that name. So when he was captured there, the king was just trying to identify a region where the Shashu were unruly, right? And however he's the king scribe is identifying these people group, that Yod Hey Wav is not natural in Egyptian, so they're able to actually see cognates of it in Semitic. So they know that the Yod Hey Wav is not something that they're calling those people, but something that they're deriving of those people because it's a Semitic word.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Oh man, Yuka said then left on me. Okay.
No, I'm right here. I was looking up something because it's actually on the Watchtower online library. This is from Jehovah's Witness library, and they have something on Yahuah. But how they spell it is different, but how they sound it out is the same. This is from Watchtower online library. It's in quotations Jehovah or Yahweh. And this section is called what is in a name. Going down to the third paragraph, it says, consider a few examples of proper names which we find in the Bible that include the shortened form of God's name, Jonathan, which appear as Yonathan or Yehonathan in the Hebrew Bible, which means Yahu, or in terms of Y-A-H-O or Yahoo, or Yahuah, Y-A-H-O-W-H-A Y-A-H-O-W-A-H has given. Says Professor Buchanan. The prophet Elijah's name is Eliah or Eliyahu in Hebrew. According to Professor Buchanan, the name means my God is Yahu, as in like Yahoo, like the email. That's how I remember it, bro.
Yo, that's the name I use, like the G. Like,
yeah, but you're not singing it though.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hey, but look, if you hear
remember
it,
that drink, that Yahoo drink that you talking about?
Yeah, the chocolate drink.
No, I'm talking about Yahoo.
Yahoo, right?
Yeah, the email.
Yeah,
not the Yahoo as well. I mean, yeah, that one too.
It can be both, right?
Yeah, basically. So it says Yahu or Yahuah. Similarly, the Hebrew name for Jehoshaphat is Yehoshaphat, meaning Yahweh has judged. A two-syllable pronunciation of the Tetragrammaton as Yahweh would not allow for the O vowel sound to exist as part of God's name. But in the dozens of biblical names that incorporate the divine name, this middle vowel sounds appears to both the original and the shortened forms, as in Yehonathan and Jonathan. Thus, Professor Buchanan says regarding the divine name, in no case is the vowel OO or OH omitted. The word was sometimes abbreviated as Yah, YH, but never as Yahweh or YAWEH. When the Tetragrammaton was pronounced in one syllable, it was Yah or Yo. When it was pronounced in three syllables, it will be pronounced as Yahuah, as in Yahowah, or Yahu, Yahoowah. If it was either abbreviated to two syllables, it would have been abbreviated as Yaho. This is the Biblical Archaeology Review. Where's the part that I actually wanted to go to? Oh, here it is right here. This is the next paragraph. These comments help us understand the statement made by 19th century Hebrew scholar Genesis Chaldee in his Hebrew and Chaldee lexicon to the Old Testament scriptures. Those who consider the Yod Hey Wahe, Yahuah, as actual pronunciation of God's name are not altogether without grounds on which to defend their opinion. In this way, can the abbreviation syllables in Yahu be Yeho, and the Yod and the U be as Yo, with many proper names be more satisfactorily explained. So basically they say, but I'm just saying in terms of that information, I found that very interesting that the Watchtower Library, Jehovah's Witnesses have that, and they stick by Jehovah. So
well, it's tradition.
Yeah. so
sure,
desperately.
sure.
So, but yeah, I found that on their website. So
Yeah,
just wanted to,
that's technically a self-inflicted wound. That they have information like that and still go with Jehovah. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy.
Yeah, I think it was either I think it was Yahuah said actually said he's met some that said they knew the name was not pronounced Jehovah. They just kept doing it that way.
yeah. It says it in this article too. It says it's just most popular, so that's why they say it.
Yeah, but they also their doctrine teaches that salvation is in Jehovah.
Yeah, they do.
So to even share that is
Tradition,
crazy.
tradition. Yes,
Yeah.
tradition.
Yeah.
So I mean, what are you gonna do about it? Now here's something because sometimes I look at information and then I go into theory land and I can't share the theories because then people think that I'm preaching a doctrine and I'm not. I'm just theorizing. So I know you used the name Yahoo without the final hey there. Um, I'm aware of the Elephantine scrolls. They use Yahoo a lot. Um, and also, you mentioned there was which one was it in the 8th century
The
that also
Samaritan
used Yahoo?
Ashrakan.
It's in
Yeah,
Austria
they used
cone.
Yahoo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Samaritan Ashrakan.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Misha Stele uses Yod Hey Vav Hey, and it's dated
Correct.
about that same time.
Correct.
Okay.
Use YHWH. Yep. So
Yeah.
that's being written by their adversaries.
Yeah.
So
That's yeah.
from King Misha that we see in 2 Kings chapter 3. Yep.
Yeah. So, is it a possibility that both names were going around? One is like a shortened form,
Mhm.
but let's say let's say the northern kingdoms use Yahoo a little bit more, and then the southern kingdoms use Yahuah a little bit more. Would you say that that's something that would be possible?
Yeah, definitely. So my theory, and I'm gonna say theory now because I don't have time to unpack it, right? But my theory is that the original name from the earliest that we have would be Yod Hey Wav, and over time, when the monarchical period showed up, that means when the monarchies were established, there was a different play on the name to demonstrate a feature of the deity in opposition to all the other gods that were there. So there was a unique innovation done amongst Israel to demonstrate that their God was like the real God, right? There's no other God like him or whatever, because that's pretty much one thing that the psalmist says: there's no other God in the heavens that are like you, right? So they find a way to distinguish the Most High in that sense, right? And then we have the more poetic form, which we find in Exodus and in Psalms, that's shortened for Yah. So I believe that all of these were running concurrent at some point, right? And then the enemies of Israel, whether it's the Assyrians who also preserved the divine name, the Moabites who preserved the divine name, it's in the Tel Dan Stele, which you see preserved the divine name. They know the divine name not because they have intimacy with the God of Israel, but because it's something that's being used by the monarchy, the kings of Israel. Right? They are going to war behind this name. They're everywhere they go. They're known by their deity, and this is the name that they say. So that was the politically correct way to say the name. And because a lot of the scribes of the text were preserving, the authorship that came from Moshe and all the forefathers before them, in a what you call a scriptorium, where they're able to write these things out without worrying about somebody, persecuting them or whatever. They're going to do so under the tutelage and oversight of the king of Israel, which in this case would be David, right? And then later on, we see that Hezekiah and Josiah, they do reforms as well, and they try to restore the scriptures as well. So when all of this stuff is going on, you have the regular local people who may not be in tune with what the king is doing, right? And they have an old familial custom of what the name is. Then you have the king who's doing it politically, and his enemies know who it is, because David talks about the enemies of the Most High, right? They hate him, as you see in Psalm chapter 83. So they know who the deity is, and they hate David, so they're going to hate his God, and vice versa, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And then you have, the other smaller local enemies like the Moabites, who know the name as well. Why? Because look in 2 Kings chapter 3, right? The northern tribes had them as their servants, You know what I'm saying? They were oppressing them. The northern tribes were oppressing the Moabites. And when the king, what's his name? King Ahaz? Is it King Ahaz? King Ahaz, when he died, the yoke came off of them, and they rebelled against Israel, and they tried to get the Edomites and others to fight on their side in a coalition. So I agree with you. Like, there's so much that's running concurrent that we can find in different places. But one thing that's interesting that y'all can look up in regards to onomastics is the familial names, because typically families will preserve that feature, right, amongst their community, amongst their extended family, amongst their tribe. And when we look at the theophoric name for anybody in scripture, they never have Yod He Wav He as a suffix for their name. It's never Yod He Wav He. It's always Yod He or Yod He Wav. It's either Yah or Yahu, right? So Yesha Yahu or Yesha Yah. That's how the familial rendering of the name is preserved. You never see Yod He Wav He as a suffix for any theophoric name anywhere in scripture, right? And the opposite is true as well. When you look at names like Jehu or names like Josiah, right? They try to preserve that suffix as a prefix, right? It comes in the beginning part of the name, but you never see Yod He Wav He preserved anywhere for any name anywhere in the scriptures. So that's one telltale sign that that name is something that's used for the monarchy, royal scribes, politically, but amongst smaller clans and families, they would have never used the name like that, right? Because otherwise they'd be naming their children after the deity if they were using or knew of the name Yod He Wav He, right? So that's just one argument that's put out there in regards to that. And I'll be interested to see if there is one. If anybody knows of one that I may have overlooked that's in the text that has Yod He Wav He as part of their name. I've never seen that before.
Well, from your perspective, I don't think that would be necessary. Because if you're saying that it is something that, let's say, would be a royal or regal name,
correct,
as opposed to the name that the common people would use, I don't think that would necessarily be something that's necessary. Now, what that would still kind of leave the door open for is Yahu the original name, or is Yahuah the original name? Or again, were they always just running concurrently, but one was just the royal, or the one that was just seen as the priestly name, and then the other was just the one that the common people used. So I think that question would be on the table.
Yeah.
But I don't. If your perspective is that, I don't think you would really need to see a regular person with the name Yahuah as part of their name.
Yeah. So, like, for example, most of the common people were illiterate, right? They were not scribes. There's a great book written on the literacy in ancient Israel, and what they were trying to judge is, how literate were, let's say, the majority of the people, like 85-90% of the people, and most of them were illiterate, right? You don't need to be literate to live and operate your daily life in ancient Israel, right? A lot of that literacy was reserved for the nobility, the priests, and the king, right? So if the common people had a name, and let's say they could not read Yod He Wav He, somebody put it out before them, they would only keep something that was shared orally, right? That they would have received orally over time, right? They wouldn't go to a scribal school to learn how to spell the divine name, how to pronunciate divine. They wouldn't know any of that, right? So common people would be unaware of that. So whatever they have will be a form that would go back as far back as possible in the oral transmission of the name that they would have received, or their ancestors would receive at some point in time, as opposed to the monarchy, right? And the scribes and the priests, they have a degree of literacy. So how they're going to tell the narrative of what's happening and the name that they're going to use for their deity, how they're also going to present the deity's name to their adversaries, to their allies, is going to be a whole different ball game that the common man will never get involved in. Like for today, when diplomats go to meet and talk about terms, they have a jargon that they use that we are not informed of because we're not in those circles, right? They have buzzwords, maybe trigger words they avoid from saying, certain terms that they call, like this term POTUS, That's a more recent nomenclature that has developed, meaning President of the United States. Some people didn't even know what the heck that was. What is a POTUS? You know what I'm saying? They never taught me that in school. And I grew up, in the 80s and 90s? They never taught me that in grade school, right? But these are new terms that's coming out that is being used in regards to diplomatic political meetings. So we're not privy of that. But the good thing is we are literate. So we can catch on, we can read something or see something. These people didn't have that advantage, right? So that's what I'm saying. How come we don't see it in the common names, and not even the common names, even the names for the kings, names for the priest, names for people in the literate circles? They didn't have it either, right? So the question is, how are we the right? Are they just receiving these names because it's something customary? But like if I'm a Levite and I go into a full-time Kohen, or I become a king, how am I reared up? Am I ready to say, hey, look, this is a divine name that you use. This is what we're preserving, as I guess upper nobility or whatever, or those of the literate scribal class. And this is what we say in our interface in diplomatic situations, or when we do psalms that are sing, because I'm sure the people were singing psalms, right? Because it was praising Yah and then also giving glory to David, right, for what he did on behalf of Israel, right? So that's what I'm saying as far as the divine name. Now, looking at the name itself, and seeing that the root, like the name itself, is not even a proper name by etymology, right? It's just you're taking a verb and you're adding the third person masculine singular imperfect tense to the verb. So you're just conjugating a verb, right? It's very rare that we get names like that, especially proper names for deities. So that's another conversation surrounding the divine name, is why is it like that? Why does it exist where we know that the root is a verb, is a verbal root, and then we know that it's just a conjugated verbal root instead of a proper name, right? So like Yod Hey Wav that we see in those theophoric names, that's a proper name. There's no root for that, verbal root for that. It's just Yod Hey Wav. Yod Hey Wav Hey, the Wav Hey Wav goes back to a root, Eye, and it just means to be, right? To exist, some say. And if you add that Yod, I will exist, or it could be a stative verb, he who exists. And then you have from Gesenius that was mentioned earlier. He says it should be Yahuah, whereas he that causes to exist is in the causative, right? So I'm saying that Yod Hey Wav itself is a root, and it's a name, and it doesn't break down further to a shoresh that's a verb. But whereas Yod Hey Wav Hey is a verb that is conjugated and then presented as a proper name, right? In the ancient Near East, I don't see a lot of deities that have that type of feature set. And again, this also causes attention to why is our God named the way he is. Is it, again, I say it's a polemic. It's a diss in the face to all the other gods at that time, because it is a feature of him that no other God can say. What other God can say they exist on their own power? No other God can say that. From any other myths that we have out there, epics that we have out, no other God can say that. So this is something that the king, the priesthood, and everybody who was like warriors and champions and captains who can read, we know the captains are literate too, right? Soldiers were literate too, because they wrote letters. We have the Telerad letters, the Quiche letters. So we know that they were literate too, right? So why are they all banding behind this name Yod Hey Wav Hey if we know that it's just a conjugated verb as opposed to a proper name, right? That's another whole new conversation, but just put it on the table for dialogue.
One thing that kind of came to mind that you said in terms of for like the royalty and the commoners, wouldn't the commoners have seen the Yod Hey Wav Hey when they saw the high priest? Because I think on his headband had to be Kodesh Le Yahuah, or set apart to Yahuah, but it had the Yod Hey Wav Hey. I think they have some archaeological findings concerning that and it's actually like they've incorporated into cartoons as well, but they have it in the paleo instead of the modern. Would that be a possible answer to your question?
Share that, brother. If you have that, I would love to see that. That sounds like a great find. Share whatever that source is. I would definitely love to look at that, because I love that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I just saw it. I just saw it one time. I think I have to find. I gotta find it again. I know I saw
Are
it.
you talking about the Silver Scroll?
Don't
That's
get me
something different.
Yeah, Silver Scroll is like
That's something different.
a scroll that's rolled up for an amulet that was found at about 600 BC is where they date it. And it was in Ketephinim, and it has number 6 on it, and it has a portion of Deuteronomy or Psalms in it that they would keep as an amulet, right, as a talisman to kind of keep evil spirits away or whatever. That's how they interpret what it is. But that has a divine name in it too. It has YHWH, and that goes back to 600 BCE. You know what I'm saying? So for people that say that the Bible created that name, that's not true. We have archaeological evidence even outside the Silver Scrolls, right? And that's something personal that an Israelite, a Judean, would have worn, right? So this is not something that's being written by their enemies or by the king. This is a common person wearing this amulet that had the name of YHWH, right? So it exists there. You know what I'm saying? So again, I believe that at some point everything was running concurrent, and we lost the tradition when we went into captivity. Right. And I think that was because our ancestors did not want the Most High's name to be profaned. And that's why we are in this conundrum today.
Yeah, I understand your perspective. I think your perspective makes a lot of sense, actually. Just because I know that when you start dealing with, once I started kind of looking at scholarly works a little bit more, there is a distinction that's made between like the regal class and then the commoner. And sometimes and not just in Israel, but just in general, but sometimes the regal class, they kind of have an understanding of things that the commoner might not know and might not be aware of. So that could make sense if you're talking about, well, the name Yahoo was passed down, or the form of the name Yahoo was passed down amongst the common people, and then the regal people had the full name, or it was used in a specific context. Or we're going to use a full name in this context, but we're going to use, but just in everyday common speech, we might just say Yahoo or Yah as a poet, or we use Yah in poetry, Yahoo in just common everyday speech, and then when we're going to war, or when we're doing law, or when we're doing praise, or anything that actually is of a higher level, we're going to use the full Yahuwah. So that I can understand. That does make sense.
And Brother Phineas, can you share the screen real quick, brother, if you don't mind?
I got you.
Yeah, this is a
wait. Oh, okay, I see it. Okay. I got you. I think I got you.
Yep, you got it. Yeah, so this is a article by Mika R. Golub, and he's writing in regards to onomastics and names that's actually preserved. So when we go down here to, let me see, and go to here. Now, this right here is a very, very good source right here. Onomasticon.net, right? He says, recently the entire database was made available online at onomasticon.net. What? Researchers of ancient names need a similar collection of naming records to do the same type of onomastic study. Hence, I built a comprehensive database of Iron Age 2 names and their various characteristics. The personal names were collected from excavated Iron Age 2 epigraphic artifacts, such as incised inscriptions, ostraca, inscribed pot shards, seals, bullae, small pieces of clay with a seal impression on them, sealing documents or package, and stamped or inscribed jars. Names found in artifacts from the antiquities market were excluded since their context, such as their geographical origin and date, is unknown, and their authenticity is uncertain. Each name is analyzed according to different categories: name, artifact type, artifact site, territorial affiliation, prefix, suffix, theophoric element, and bibliography. Then he gives you where all that research is done at, right? The digital onomasticon has many advantages over a printed one. He goes into that. But when he goes down into the detail about it, right here, he says, so what does the onomasticon reveal? Are the characteristic of Iron Age 2 names in the biblical narrative similar or different from those collected from excavated epigraphic artifacts? So what he's doing is he's trying to date pages of scripture using onomastics. What he's showing is that if I take 100 artifacts that we found in the earth from the Iron Age 2 period, and they all have different names, and I parse out all the different names, like all the names that say Jeremiah, Ezekiel, whatever, or common names, right? What frequency would I see? Like, would I see the name Josiah more than 37% of the time? Or would I see this more than this amount of the time? And then he goes into the Bible and he does the same thing. He takes all the names he finds in the Bible, he lists them out and say, okay, what is the frequency? What is the most common and current name, etc. Then he lines them up side by side and it says, we can date how far back the Bible's written because we have a historical time capsule. It preserves the frequency in which the names are mentioned, which means the text was written in the historical context that it is claiming to be from, and not written much later. Because one way that we can tell that the Gnostic texts are not authentic is because a lot of the Gnostic text was written in Alexandria, in Egypt. These people never saw the land of Israel before. So what happens is when they're talking about Jesus, they are using a lot of Greek names for other characters, Greek names for places. They're not using the Judean or Aramaic places or terms or phrases that would have been said in the first century historical period in which Jesus lived. So what he's showing here, he says, consider the book of Jeremiah. The majority of the persons mentioned in the book are Judeans, contemporaries of the prophet Jeremiah, as are their ancestors, typically fathers and sometimes also grandfathers. Thus, the digital onomasticon was searched for names affiliated with Judah in the 7th and early 6th centuries, Jeremiah's time. These names were compared with Judean names appearing in Jeremiah in the context of the same period. The names, 92 from Jeremiah and 367 from the epigraphic artifacts, were sorted into 6 groups according to their theophoric elements. Yahwistic names were the most dominant group, 63% in Jeremiah and 50% in epigraphic artifacts, followed by a large margin by names with L, 10% in Jeremiah and 8% in epigraphic artifacts. Names with divine appellatives and divine names other than Yahweh and El in both sources are rare. In addition, each source was analyzed according to the location of Yahwistic elements, like Yod He Wav as a suffix or Yod He within their names, whether they were prefix or suffix. There was all with very similar distribution of the prefix suffix element, Yod He Wav, 87%, 30%, etc., etc. So then he goes into several popular names that are common in both sources, etc. One thing I want to pull out from this article, so I don't have to read all of it, was that in the theophoric names of not just the common people, but other people that would have so they've looked in like other like contexts, like for example Telerod. Some say that that's the actual location of Jerusalem. Some say that was, you know, the king's second house place where he lived, and he had a little temple set up there because when he would go away from Jerusalem, he would go escape there. Sometimes if there's a siege on the city of Jerusalem, he didn't want to be found. But in that context, right, we also find inscriptions of names of individuals, right? So we find them in the palace context, we find them outside of Jerusalem context, we find them in Tel Arad and other places. So we're analyzing these names, and again, when we see the divine appellative form of the name, it's always Yod He Wav or Yod He, and again, it's never the full name Yod He Wav He. So even in names, we never find the preservation, because like if somebody's being called and they want the name of the deity in their name, they're going to have the name of the deity. But as you can see here from the whole onomasticon, there is nothing either in the digital context of the immaterial culture in scripture or the material culture that actually has anything other than Yod He or Yod He Wav, even though Yod He Wav is found 87% of the time, right? That people are using Yod He Wav. So then the question is, we don't see Yod He Wav, the Most High called that in scripture. We don't see him call that at all in scripture, right? He's only called Yah, and he's only called Yod He Wav He. He's never called Yod He Wav. So then the question is, where does that come from if people are surnaming themselves that? They're calling their kids that. They call it themselves that. They're changing their names to that. Where's that coming from? And one of the arguments for that is, again, it goes back to a more ancient rendering of the name that was no longer in popular usage by the time the dynasties are emerging on the scene, right? It's something that people still do by custom, but it's not nothing that is politically used, in any kind of context, right? So this just goes to show you, number one, that the Bible is historically accurate, speaking from the time period that it claims to be from. And number two, when we see the database of names, they all have Yod Hey Wav or Yod Hey, or even the ones that say El, but we never see the full Yod Hey Wav Hey used any place at any time. So then the question is why? Why is it not there in that piece of evidence? We don't even have one name that's like that. Right. And that's something I always bring to the table, just to kind of spark conversation, just to see like how we think about it and how we try to figure out the Rubik's Cube on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't. If the perspective is that you would have to have a name, somebody having the full Yod Hey Wav Hey in their name, to say that that's the more ancient view, then yeah, you don't see that. If you're saying that if you have the more regal name, and again, you brought out that that would be a verbal root, have a verbal root that's being conjugated a certain way. Is it possible? And I'm just asking questions. Is it possible that the reason why you don't see that in a name is because it's only being used in that full context for a specific purpose? So again, for regal purposes, for battle, when they're looking for the action of something to be performed, whereas when they're trying to invoke the name, it's just Yahu or Yah during that time. And part of the reason why I'm asking that question is because even in later times, not even among people that are outside of Israel, I believe there's some Greek things that were used where they're actually invoking the name, and they actually use the name Yahu as well in an invocation. And then before that, you see earlier text where I think it's in the pictograph, and they're actually invoking a curse in the name of Yahu, but not in the name of Yahuah. So is that something that is possible?
Definitely. I mean, every point you made is, I can't even argue with that. And I wouldn't want to argue with that because that's on the table to cause more critical thinking. And I agree, it's based on the context. And that's why I contextualize Yod Hey Wav Hey as something that is a monarchical thing used amongst the priests, the royal scribes, etc., and what we see in literature, right? That's what survives. And there's arguments that is the more ancient rendering of it too. So I'm not going to just buck against, academia because of my particular position. And this article that's actually written by Michael Heiser, which a lot of us are familiar with, he actually
I know Heiser.
Yep, he gives a name entry on Yod Hey Wav Hey where he dismisses Yod Hey Wav as being ancient and says Yod Hey Wav Hey is older than Yod Hey Wav, right? So he makes those arguments too. So there's people in academia that makes the arguments that Yod Hey Wav Hey is much older, just like Austin Searles, right? For the book I shared, he also makes that argument as well. He dismissed Yod Hey Wav as being much older, but he gives all the arguments for why there is some that say that, right, or make that argument for it, right? And I'm one of the people that make the argument for it. So I believe that Yod Hey Wav Hey survives because it's in the text that we have today. And this is what the kings were using, right? This is how the adversaries, their opponents, knew about their God. And this is how they presented their God, right? And we see so many artifacts with Yod Hey Wav Hey in it. I can't make the argument that Yod Hey Wav is the actual name for certain because I don't see the deity called that anywhere in the Bible. He's not called that, right? He's not called Yod Hey Wav nowhere in scripture, right? So then I would have to account for that. Like, why is there absence of that then if I believe that my position is true? So I try to be honest on all fronts and try to see all perspective. But I will say this. I know that, Yahuah, right? Because Yahuah is another name that's used. And some brothers say that that's the more ancient name, right? And they say, well, it's the more ancient name because all A-class vowels is something that is primitive, like babies say it, like mama, dad, and it's like in your innocence. That's how they're actually speaking their pure language. So a lot of times they associate that with how the Hebrew should be pronounced. And when you learn the language, it's very difficult to go with that position. I don't outrightly just write it off. I'm just saying it's very difficult to go with that tradition because of how uh, the letters that we have, how it's contracted, it produces sounds that Yahweh, it's not going to make Yahweh, right? That's just not going to happen, right? And there hasn't been a lot of scholarly consensus on that position. I've read maybe about 2 or 3 authors that made that proposition, but they don't make it as their thesis statement. They make it like as a hypothesis, right?
Okay.
Where this comes from. So it doesn't come from our community at all. There's been others outside of the Israelite community that have made these arguments in the past. But they were not in the scholarly realm. They were not philologists. They were not linguists, right? Who made these arguments. So Yahweh is a little bit more difficult to prove via the sources that we have out there, right, in language. And I would go with Yahuwah over Yahweh, and even the Yahweh, right, or Yahweh. That's a more, I mean, that would actually go back as well. But Yahweh is difficult, especially if you have the Mate Elecciones.
Yeah,
Because
you can't get Yahweh. You can't get
Right.
Yahweh from that.
you can't get it from that, right? So there's no way that would be ancient, and that's considered the oldest way to pronounce the Hebrew, right? And we can't get Yahweh from that. And that's the only thing. I'm not banging on it, right? We're just having a conversation about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And if somebody wants to come and challenge it, that's what peer review is for, right? It's open for discussion, right? I'm not trying to be right on anything. I'm just sharing information for brothers to go back and check out and say, yo, Divine, you wrong, or Divine, you know what, you made a good point, just so that we all can get closer in this knowledge. Because look, our community is under attack. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been telling brothers since 2014 that they need to gird their loins with scholarship, with other sources, learn the language, learn some archaeology. You know what I'm saying? Learn to make a better case for who we are. You know what I'm saying? Because brothers was sloppy with it. There was ignoring stuff. And then look what happened, right? We had the Christian apologists descend down on us. We had the conscious community descend down on us. Matter of fact, Sonetta, right? He was just running a video earlier today with some random white dude who's not even an academic on there, that was trying to tear apart scripture and tear apart the history of Israel and say all of this defaming information that brothers can simply rebut if they just get into the research. You know what I'm saying? But I would say this, that since 2025, we have been under attack. I praise Yah for that, because that has forced brothers to step their game up, right? To be able to defend this truth, defend the Most High's name, defend the integrity of Israel, and be able to be, the Most High's handiwork and dealing with everything that's attacking our people. So,
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. We gotta, certain things. Yeah, that's have been said. It's just not accurate. You can easily Google search some of the things, and we have the correct position, but sometimes the way we defend that position is just horrible. Yeah,
I agree.
And most people, if they can easily Google search something and find out that you said information that's wrong, they're going to assume everything you say is wrong, even if your position is correct. So, yeah, I think we definitely have to tighten up there.
So, Brother
some
Finney,
churn to do.
do you have any feedback to add to the discussion? If you're okay with sharing now, or if not, I understand. But it'd be kind of interesting to hear your position on this.
Nah, well, for the most part, my position was to let whatever they thought the name was, for that individual to come up and show his methodology for why he felt that was the name. And from what I've heard, with y'all going with the Yah and the Yahoo and the YHWH being something used maybe a little more for the kings and the monarchs, and then I get what you're saying with the names only saying the YHWH. I kind of, I'm seeing the method. I'm seeing what y'all are saying there, and I always start my videos of late, you know, when I seen some of the research or the lack thereof for Yahuah Bashem Yahushua Brakatah. And I did a couple of documentaries. I seen it, I seen it coming from a brother said some man walked in the kitchen with a suit on and told him the name and told Abba Bivens the name. And I've heard some dialogue too with with you was on with Divine. It was on Clubhouse and it was brothers there, and you were breaking it, kind of saying that it's kind of hard to defend Yahweh. And brothers seem to to have agreed with you, and but at the same time brothers still kind of go do their own thing. But I don't, I'm just gleaning from the information that y'all giving. I go back and look at these and look at some of these resources. But I have learned a lot, even with my peak and the Psalm 68, the Exodus 15, understanding how that came about. And it's very interesting what the brother brought out about the priest also wearing that, opposing that they're wearing that YHWH, if that
Yeah, that's awesome.
if that is the case. But that's what I'm seeming to glean from it, that you have the Yohei and you got the Yah and you got the Yahoo. And brother saying that maybe these things were concurrent with the Yahuah, also with the all of them being concurrent in use for different reasons, rather in song or in priestly duties, or just commoners who are are dealing with the language. But ultimately it's something that we can have these dialogues about. And this is the most of methodology that I've seen on those who who deal with the name doctrine. And I know it's a lot of them out there, even the Yao group of brothers and sisters. And I remember seeing a video. I don't remember if y'all seen that video where it seemed like they were in this cave and they seen this Greek, and they seen the Greek inscription and they said, "Oh, it's talking to the deity name and it's Yao." Y'all
I've
ever
been trying to
seen
figure
that
out for
video?
years. I've been trying to figure out for years how people got Yao. I genuinely don't understand, and I'm not even trying to be funny, because Yod Hey Vav. If you're looking at Yod Hey Vav, I get how you get Yao, but the moment you add that last Hey, what
No, it was they
sound
were
is
in
that?
a cave. They were like
Yeah.
in this cave, and they seen it and they said, "Hey, it's Yao." This was wow. This might have been over 10 years ago.
What was it written
Um,
in? You remember?
you say what now?
What was it written in? Like the
It was in
letter.
Greek.
I was just about to say
Okay,
that.
so
I was
that's
just about to
that's
say
yeah.
that.
So that's what I was
I
talking
think
about
they get it
earlier.
from
The
the Greek.
Yahoo.
Yeah,
They
yeah. I think
probably
they get it from the Greek.
were
Yep.
probably invoking the name of Yahuah or Yahoo, because when Greeks did it, they typically used a shortened version. Let me see if I can. I probably am not gonna be able to pull it up just off the whim like this. But yeah, there was a hold on.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, let me see. The divine name. Yeah, so it was in a Hellenistic. This is Reddit though, but it's the quickest thing I can get. Yes, a Hellenistic stratum at Gezer. It's just YHW, but in the Greek, it's the letters. I don't know the Greek letters, so I know it's iota, alpha, and then
What
the
does it
one
look?
that looks
What does
like
it
a
look
W.
like? What does it look
Yeah,
like?
iota, alpha, and the one that looks like a W. I don't know Greek, so I don't know what letter that is.
So you remember when I was telling you about that book? It had the I, something like an X, then a O, a U, and an E. Is that what it looked
Right.
like, Caleb?
No, this is three letters. So the iota, which looks
Okay,
like
never
an
mind.
I,
Set it back.
the alpha, which looks like an alpha, and then there's one that looks like a W, but it's kind of curly. Like I said, I don't know Greek, so I don't know what that last letter is. I believe that's Yao. That would be how the Greeks would have said that, either Yao or Yahu. So that's probably where they're getting it from. They're using the Greek, but it doesn't change the fact that the Hebrew has a final hey at the end. So I know Devon said that somebody wrote a academia letter on that. I would have to read that because I want to see how, because I just never understood it, how they got Yao from Yod Hey Vav Hey.
Yeah, and also the point of just seeing the tetragrammaton in the text is never just the Yohe Vav. Um, I'm still circling thought around that. Why do we why are we holding on? Why are we saying it's older? Um, that the Yahoo could be. Oh, I know you said both sides. That some people say that the Yohe Vahe and then the other one say Yohe Vav. Um, but if that's mainly what we seeing in the text, um, I,
Well,
you, I would feel stronger towards that than I seen the methodology with the names and being and that the Yohe Vahe is not in the names. Go ahead, brother.
no, I was just gonna say to Devon's point, um, the overwhelming vast majority of the the Tanakh would be written by the educated and the elite. So you would expect to only see the name Yahuwah there, as opposed to Yahoo.
Oh, it's gonna fall under
It's
that
going to fall under that.
aspect of those. Yeah,
So
I got you.
that's why really, as I'm listening to it, I don't have an issue with his perspective. I think the only thing I would maybe just question is which one is actually older, if there is one that's older or not. But we don't really have a way to prove either or objectively.
Yeah, the consensus is saying that Yod Hey Vav Hey is older.
Yeah.
So that's where the consensus is. I'm always honest with that. So I actually have a minority view that a couple of those scholars do subscribe to as well. But the consensus is that Yod Hey Vav Hey is the oldest rendition of the name, right? Despite whether it could be found archaeologically earliest or whatever the case may be, they give a good argument for why. And I shared one of those articles in the chat.
Okay. Anybody got anything else? Anybody got any questions in the chat?
Yeah, you got some really interesting characters in the chat.
It might be getting a little spammed
Oh, let me
out.
see
You know
some
what
of
time
let
it
me see
is.
some of these people. Let me see some of these people. Hold on a
Yeah,
second.
they're going in.
Elohim, Kedoshim, Hiroshima.
Yeah, he's making fun of Israelites.
Oh, he is?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
the
said what?
tech
He
guy?
said what? He said, "What's up,
Yeah,
Ham
the tech.
tribe?
Yeah.
Y'all not Shem. You calling it as a Ham tribe?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
That's
cool. He didn't say
Yeah,
anything interesting though.
yeah.
Yeah.
You got somebody else saying that he's from the house of Elohim, Yotei Vape, root of David, Metatronic linguistics, living light, ascended, spiritual energy, regenerative health, organic fuel operations, Michael Signet. These are the type of people that come out at this time of night. So
Yeah.
Right.
that's a regal
Go
name.
ahead and
That's
wrap this
crazy.
thing up, man. I definitely appreciate y'all brothers falling through. Very edifying. A lot of things I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to go back um and look at, man, to try to digest. Um and it was good to have, everybody's mindset on these things, man. I definitely appreciate the brother from the Bread and Wine podcast, brother Divine Prospect. Definitely appreciate you stopping in. Also, y'all brothers have any final words, and then we'll close out.
Someone did have a question that says, if we get it wrong, is there a punishment?
If you get
Anybody else want to
is there a
answer?
if you
punishment?
get the name wrong,
Because yeah, I'll share something else at the end. But anybody want to answer before me?
Yeah, well, I'll just give a brief answer, and I would say no for now, right? And I say that because this is a journey that we're all trying to reconstruct, and it's not something that we are purposely doing. We're not purposely saying, "Oh, I'm gonna say the wrong name because I don't care about the Most High, honoring Him, respect Him, or whatever," right? Just like if somebody is getting to know me for the first time, and let's say I have a foreign name, right? And we have this happen a lot. I know a lot of people with foreign names. I mess their names up all the time, right? When I call them or when I talk about them, right? Especially in the workplace, they understand, right? They're not mad. They're not angry. Obviously, that's not their name. I'm not saying it right, but they kind of work with it because they know the name might be difficult to pronounce, right? So the Most High know that through all the history, us being excommunicated and exiled out the land, and all of the stuff that was done scribal wise, where the name is, being moved so that way the heathens are not defaming it, etc., that we're all trying to learn what that name is, right? So I don't think that he's going to punish us for getting it wrong, because we're not getting it wrong intentionally to disrespect him, right? We're trying to learn what it is. So like the brother said, I mean, we all can agree that Yah is the name. David used it and Moses used it. Even when I come around my GOCC brothers, I say, y'all say Ahaya. Yah is in that too. Yah is in Ahaya. Yah is in Yahuah. Yah is in Yahweh. Yah is in Yahweh. Yah is in Yahuah. I mean, that's the common denominator for all the names, and scripture backs it. So I just say that to be on the safe side and to kind of get a common ground. So at least if you use that name, then you can't be wrong. Now, the full version of that name can be debated, but at least Yah, with that Mapik and the Hey, at least the Yah can be found in scripture, and in Yah is called that, right? So we can use that name safely if you're concerned about getting it wrong. That would probably be the safest course, I would say. And I yield on that. Unless your brothers have anything else you want to add to it.
I was just gonna ask the other question the sister had, but Caleb, if you want to answer it.
Yeah, all I'm really going to do is, land back off what Brother Divine said. I mean, at the end of the day, because sometimes we get caught up in the name, we're not looking at the pronunciation, but we're Americans. So even if we have the name right, we might not necessarily be pronouncing it the exact with exactness as an ancient Israelite would have pronounced it. Are we going to go burn for that? Again, I'm coming from the perspective of somebody who used to say, if you don't say Yahuwah, you're going to hell. Never made sense to me even when I said it, but that's what I thought it was. And then, like I said, once I started learning the Hebrew and learning the history, and I realized, oh, some of these other names actually, they make some sense. I see how somebody can arrive to that position. It's like, I can't really hold that. Yeah, so no, I would say no, it's not going to send you to hell or anything like that. If you're trying and then Most High has not revealed his perfect name to any of us at this point in time, then no, I don't see you going to hell for that.
Then the sister Zabah said, what is the oldest evidence of Yahuwah versus Yahweh?
Yeah, I know she's saying Thawadah.
Yeah, she said the water.
Yeah, Thawada or Thawadah. I know she probably subscribes to Yahweh as being the ancient name because of what she was taught. And that's what we were discussing earlier, sis. So what we were saying is that now it depends on what perspective you take, right? If we go in a scholarly perspective, what the consensus of data is showing us is that West Semitic languages, right, have a certain way that they're pronounced. And we haven't found any West Semitic languages or even East Semitic languages like Akkadian or anything like that that had all A-class vowels. Matter of fact, in Lashon Kadash, how come the ayin is an I? Think about that. When y'all say Yahweh Shai, why is there a Shai there? How come it's not an ah sound? And the reason why is because they need a way to differentiate the ayin from the aleph, right? Because otherwise, how would you know what you're using, what you're saying? So in Lashwa Kadash, they have an I class vowel, 1, and everything else is A class vowel. But how are you defining that I class vowel as an I, and why are you ascribing it to the ayin, right? So that's another conversation altogether. So that goes to show that you cannot have any language with just one class vowel like A. It's just not going to work, right? So we have different things called diphthongs, and that is when you put 2 vowels together and it produces a third sound, which is independent of each vowel independently. You have those features in language. You have to account for that, right? And then you have other things as well. If you use the Mates Lecciones, you have, other than for aleph and hey, you have it and u for your yod and your waf, right? We see that also in modern Hebrew with the shirk, not modern biblical Hebrew with the shirk, given the u sound, or you have the e sound when you have a yod and a here together, you have the e sound. So there's features of sound in Semitic languages that cannot rely simply on one class vowel and requires other sounds like I, U, A at the very rudimentary form of it with the materials like shown as in order to pronunciate words, because it'll be very difficult to differentiate words and you have a whole bunch of phonemes, words that sound the same and you would never know unless you're carefully listening and somebody's using it in the proper context, right? It would be a very confusing language if it was an actual colloquial language today. But some brothers and sisters, they've made it a colloquial language, and I give them props for using innovative skills to do that, right? But that's why Yod He Wav He would be the better name as far as Yahuwah would be more ancient than Yahweh. That's crazy that may sound to people, but that's the truth. I would lean towards Yahuwah over Yahweh. But y'all got it. The other brothers can give you their feedback on that too, real quick.
You say you got anything you want to say?
No, I was just gonna once Brother Phineas was ready to cut to cut it off, I was just gonna give the our saying that we say at the Bread and Wine podcast for everybody. But that was about it. That's on closing.
Okay. I'll just give my last 2 cents on that point then. Yeah, once you start actually looking at the text, the Lashawan Kadash falls apart really fast. For example, Aleph and Lamed, most people know that as L. So that's God. There's actually about 3 or 4 different words that are Aleph and Lamed. And they actually are pronounced differently. But if you're going to say they're all Al, you actually are going to run into some problems because one of those words negates one of those words. Again, it's the word for power, and it's just that clear if you're just going to use Aleph Lamed and pronounce it the same. There are other words that when you have things like in a construct form, sometimes the vowels will get shortened, or the vowel might drop entirely when it goes to a construct form. And if you just have, like you said, all A-class vowels, it doesn't work once you start looking at the language. I'm not even super fluent. I'm not even fluent like that. But even though the little bit of reading I can do, I'm like, yeah, if this was just all A-class, this would not work at all. It falls apart pretty fast. And most of the people that I'm aware of that say that it's all A-class vowels, they can't read the language. They might know the letters, but they can't actually like read the language and translate. And even again, it doesn't have to be fluent, just enough to get by. They can't do any of that. From my, if somebody can do that, then I'm wrong. But from what I see, I haven't seen anybody who knows the language well enough and uses Lashawan Kadash to do it.
If I can dumb it down, basically brothers is gleaning pronunciations from similar languages that were around, and also other translations that are trying to pronounce Hebrew words or Hebrew names.
For Lashawan Kadash?
No. I'm talking about I'm talking about just methodology that
got you. Okay.
You're right, that is being given to establish what a pronunciation, how we getting these pronunciations, and also certain words that have been translated, just like we have Espanol in English, and it's a Spanish word, but it's spelt out the way it sounds, so that we'll know that it's Spanish. Translations are like that. There are translations like that, and you can glean and say, well, you know what, that it may have pronounced that that sound could be there in the fact that we have that there, the way they've pronounced that word in another language. But they pronounced it in another language, but they made it to sound just like um, the name in how it was pronounced in Hebrew or how it was pronounced in Spanish, you know, if that makes sense. Far as Yahuah and how we came about with that, and you know, some of the talking points with that. Like I said, I haven't seen a lot of methodology with it, but just, you know, well, why we use the A, and brothers kind of went over that. Um, it does fall short. It's a lot of words, like you said, like I want to say Malek comes into
Hmm.
is problematic. One of those words that is problematic, trying to put the A's there, the difference between kings and angels, and
Then Malak.
right. That can be problematic. So it's just in you know, I do reverence it, I do respect it because you know, it's something that brothers put together, but it only goes so far with the methodology that's applied to it. And I try to reverence everybody's understanding on it, on the names. Um, you know, and that's why I say that little intro in the beginning. Um, in understanding that this is a process. Like I said, a lot of times when we coming in, we had that Dunning Kruger effect, and we say we know this and we know that and we know that, and sometimes it's the way this thing works is the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Um, the more you
That is
realize you
so
don't know, and,
true.
and
Yeah.
you have to give brothers, you know, brothers and sisters grace on these things, and we can have these dialogues. It don't have to be a debate and you wrong and that wrong and that, you know, just listen to the talking points. You know, brothers have put resources out here and sources and that we can go back and look at if you really truly are trying to get that. But I don't want nobody to take just because these brothers are saying it. And I do think these are very smart brothers. I do reverence these brothers and the information they have, but make sure you understand before you go out and you're trying to go out and just this video ain't for you to go out and try to point the finger and say, well, no, you wrong too, because I just seen brothers on Prince of Power. They was saying it's Yahusha and it's a Yahuah and it's Yahoo. And you get dogmatic with it and you don't truly understand it or how to defend it or how to show the methodology properly. And that can do more harm than good. So look at over these things, research these things um, before you go out and you trying to. You don't want to just be out regurgitating something. Just make sure that you understand. You know, some of the some of the information that brothers have given out today, man, and glean from it. Um, you brothers can close out and out, you know, with any last words, and then I'll close this out.
Yeah, so just want to say definitely appreciate both of y'all, Brother Phineas, Divine Prospect. I can say that I have learned from both of y'all. So definitely appreciate, you know, the work that y'all are putting in, the most High is helping y'all with. And just to land back off what you said, Brother Phineas, to all those who are listening, yeah, you want to understand and be able to defend it in a way that it makes sense, because you don't want to be a stumbling block to other people when you come out with so much zeal and you don't have enough knowledge to back it up. That can be more detriment not only for them but more so for you, because you saying that you're stating you're coming in an authority aspect. Anyway, I definitely appreciate y'all. So one thing that we always say in closing out that we do, from Caleb and myself on the Bread and Wine podcast, and for those listeners, Yahuwah Baruch you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor unto you. Yahuwah lift up his face towards you and give you shalom. Thus you should put my name on the children of Yashraal, and I myself shall Baruch them. So we appreciate y'all. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom. Appreciate you, brother. All right, y'all. Anybody else got closing? Or y'all good?
Shalom.
I was gonna let. Oh,
Shalom.
that's it, Caleb. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say. Thank you, brother Phineas, for allowing us on the stage. Shout out to the brothers from Better Than Wine podcast as well. Good brothers. And again, I just love cordial conversations like this because there's no yelling, there's no screaming, cursing, or any ad hominems. Right? We're just dealing with the information. We're sharing it back and forth, despite what our disagreements may be. This is how you know you put the love for your brother above your doctrine, right? And that is how you win souls. You know what I'm saying? For the Most High Yah. It's your character and how you exemplify who he is, right? So the more that we can love each other more than our doctrines, the more we can break bread, build bridges instead of building walls, right? So I think this was a great example of that demonstrated. And I appreciate the information that was shared because I learned some stuff. Also learned some stuff on this channel too when Brother Phineas is speaking and bringing things out, and we learn from each other, right? Nobody's above the other. We're all here to serve one another, right? So I thank everybody in the chat too for your participation, and I would love to come on here again, Brother Phineas, if you would have me. So with that, I say shalom.
Shalom. And all y'all brothers are welcome to definitely come back on, man. And I definitely appreciate y'all stopping in. I thought this was gonna be, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think my brother was gonna come through with no information. I didn't think he was gonna come through. I didn't think he was gonna come through with no information. But
We're getting better. We're getting better as a
unit.
community. We are getting better. As a unit, we're getting better. Because I'm telling you, 5-10 years ago, scholarship was lacking.
Yeah.
But we're getting better.
Hallelujah.
You know, and that was enough for me. Even when when he showed me, he was getting the pronunciation from the Greek. I was like, okay, I'm not mad at my brother. But he definitely exceeded my expectations with the information that he was bringing out. And then all praises, y'all two brothers came in also. Brother Divine and Brother Caleb came in also, and it turned into an excellent dialogue. And a lot of information that Israel can glean from on this subject matter. This is a big issue within Israel. Everybody just wants to know. Even first coming in, even as a babe coming in, it's one of the things that we want to hold on to and want to be precious and close to. Is I want to know his name. Don't want to be calling on that other name. And these kind of bills definitely edifying, definitely fruitful, man. And I definitely appreciate y'all brothers for falling in, and everybody who's watching. Definitely appreciate y'all hanging in there with us. And I know, like I said, this thing was a little heavy, it's a little meaty. And all the questions were profitable. It wasn't no question that were just super milky or unprofitable. Everybody, all the questions that were brought forth definitely helped. So I don't want nobody to leave, Sisters Zahab. I don't want you to leave thinking brothers were attacking you or anything like that, or attacking the understanding. It's it ain't, it wasn't like that. I don't want you to take it like that to go to sleep on that. It was just brothers seeing certain language. When we see the water and Barakatah and we see Shalakia, we kind of know where that, or we'll kind of assume and make assumptions for that. And even if brothers are not involved in camps, it's still part of the community. And even if you don't agree with it, it's still part of the community, and it's still useful to a degree because a brother will greet you with a shalom. A brother will greet you with a most high in Christ bless. A brother will greet you with a shalom. And navigate in the community. It's just helpful, and bring peace and brotherhood and sisterhood. Knowing these things and meeting people where they are. Again, y'all pray this thing was edifying. I appreciate all you brothers. Shalom, Israel.